ranking the top faces currently in the WWE. I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. Let's cheers, talk about some wrestling.
This man can't even get through a sentence.
Forgot
He's so excited.
We're keeping it in.
We did a heels, top 5 heels not too long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I figured why not go ahead and look at the faces as well.
Yep.
These aren't maybe our favorite, or at least I didn't rank mine on favorite.
No, me neither.
I ranked mine on just like, what do I see on TV? As always, we don't show our lists. So let's go ahead. Let's get to the honorable mentions, though. Did you do some of those?
I got a bunch of them.
Oh, a bunch. Okay, well, let's have you go first then.
I wanted to get 2 out of the way real quick for the honorable mentions. I'm going to put John Cena and Randy Orton. Obviously, John Cena is not a full-timer, so he shouldn't really count, period. But we do know that he does come back here and there. He's John Cena. We all know he's the biggest face in the company when he decides to show up and be a worker. And same with Randy Orton. He's kind of loved everywhere he goes. I just don't see him as one of the top selling big time reason you go to the show baby faces anymore. And that's no disrespect to Randy. Absolutely love that man.
Yeah. I did have what I call so I have 2 separate honorable mention categories.
Okay.
I have just an honorable mention, and then I have what I call the legacy. I guess those guys would go under legacy.
That'll work. Yeah, that works.
I had Rey Mysterio. Rey's just a constant face. People love Rey when he goes out there, even if he's not in anything important.
That's
kind of right there.
That's a good category to have. I should have thought of that. For another one that I have my honorable mentions, I'll just do the rest of mine real quick. Okay. I did have LA Knight. Didn't make the top 5. I apologize. Love that man to death. He finally has his U.S. title. I scream, yeah, with the rest of you when I'm sitting at home when I watch the man because he's great. Yeah. And then I do have Damian Priest. I don't think he's there yet. He'll get there. His face run started around or after SummerSlam, around SummerSlam-ish. We're not too far out from there. The Terror Twin stuff has kind of turned me off a little bit on it. But I do see him being a big baby face down the road. So I'll let you finish up your honorable mentions.
Yeah. Sorry, I was kind of reorganizing my list as we were talking about it as well. Because I looked at my list and I said, oh, I don't have a name on there. I probably should. My 2 honorable mentions, I only put 2 on there. I put Seth Rollins. The only reason I put him in honorable mentions instead of on my list, he would be on that if he was on TV. He's just coming back from injury. The little bit that we've seen of him, he did have the one match at Money in the Bank and then the special guest referee stuff. He just hasn't been on TV enough for me to kind of get on this list. And then the other one would be Bianca Belair. She's an honorable for me because she is in the tag team stuff, so we don't really get to see as much of Bianca as much as we were getting in the singles run, right? Like, you kind of have to share the spotlight, obviously, in the tag team division. While it's getting some more exposure, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's not as much as we were getting of Bianca. So as much as I am enjoying her work, she's just not there on the top 5 list right now.
That's fair. That's fair. I did have one more honorable mention that I would put like heavily at 6.
Same as Zayn?
Rhea Ripley.
Same as Zayn.
I put Rhea Ripley at my 6. Reason being, I think that while she is someone that gets cheered for and is technically the good person in her feud, I do think she's very tweener. I think that she does bad things. I don't think that she's like a baby face. I think that she just kind of rides the line. Obviously, she walks out and she's just a huge deal wherever she goes. I do think that we're seeing it more lately, that she is getting more backlash, more 50-50 interaction in terms of love-hate from the fans. Mm-hmm. And that kind of adds into my top baby face here. And I don't really want to go into the negative comments. Stop actually wishing hate on wrestlers. That's all I'll say there.
Yeah, for me, I guess I'll just go with my 5 then.
Yep. Top 5.
And we'll talk about it here. So my number 5, I have LA Knight.
Yeah.
So the same reasons you kind of already mentioned him. He's getting that run. Everybody seems to like him. For that time there that admittedly Cody's run kind of wasn't the greatest at times, LA Knight really kind of picked the ball up and ran with it for me. So there's not much more else I need to say. People love LA Knight. The only criticism was he wasn't great in the ring, and he's beginning to improve. Like, he's shown improvements vastly over a year ago. So he's got to make the list.
Yeah. I agree. I put him out right outside. I'd probably put him at 7 behind Rhea Ripley. Reason being is that he's grown in terms of his in-ring, and he's grown in terms of finally getting his mid-card title that we've been begging for feels like years at this point. But I don't feel like he's gotten any hotter. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like he's kept his level of over for a good while, and I don't think that he's had his like Jey Uso push right through the rest of the glass ceiling on that one to really become like the guy that when he walks out at any time on SmackDown, even though he's not the main champ, people go absolutely insane. Like Jey Uso will drown out the bigger stars on paper. And so that's why I kept him out of it. My number 5, someone you already mentioned as well. So you put LA Knight at your 5 while he was outside my list. Bianca Belair. I am going to put her on the list. She's the top face in my opinion because I've said it many times. I see her as the female John Cena. I really do. She's the Make-A-Wish girl for the women. I mean, they all do it, but she does a bunch of them. She is just, you know, there's a reason that she always comes out second when her and Jade comes out. When that music hits, the pop hits. And she's dancing around. The kids are loving it. You see kids with the freaking fake hair. And they're just absolutely loving Bianca. I know that she is stuck in the tag division, and that's why I put her at 5. Because, we have seen her hotter before when she was chasing titles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the kids love her.
Yeah.
And admittedly, when that theme music hits, I like the theme music. And I twirl my fake hair. I don't have long enough hair, but
that's why my hairline's so far back. I keep twirling it.
I'll do it too, So, that makes sense. You're not going to hear any objection from me.
Yeah.
My number 4 is somebody you already mentioned. Again, we don't show each other our lists. So, my number 4 is Rhea Ripley. Now, I was conflicted with this one. I felt like she kind of had to make the list just because it is Rhea Ripley, because she is a face. Now you said she is a tweener. I agree with that 100%. But the way she's presented, she is a face, and the pop that she gets, you are starting to see some pushback, which I think is kind of a sign for WWE. Like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. You don't need it to be the Rhea show 100% of the time, which I think is good. There's a fine line. Like, you can critique things you don't like. That's okay.
There is.
But Rhea, I feel like she kind of had to make the list. I mean, it's Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, I had her at 6, and everything that you just said is exactly what I said, and I could reiterate it to this day. I do think the tweener stuff is very prevalent with her, and that's just kind of what draws me off it. I know that we made this list not based off of our likes, but I just feel like there's some other baby faces on the list that have purely pops from the crowd instead of a 50-50 neutral. And that was the difference between that and my next guy. Yeah,
and before you go your next guy, I just want to say that if we had recorded this maybe a month and a half ago, Rhea would have been way up there, So it is kind of a recency bias at least, but I understand it. You know what I mean?
I just went on a spouting my opinion on why the whole tweener thing is what kind of drew me off Rhea. I'm being a hypocrite here because I'm putting CM Punk at number 4.
Shocker, Will the hypocrite.
I'm putting CM Punk at number 4. Reason being, while he does do tweener stuff, and the beginning of the Drew McIntyre CM Punk feud very much felt like who really is the bad guy here, I feel like toward the last 2/3 of that feud, it was very obvious that CM Punk was the good guy, right? CM Punk was the face. And that man, I mean, his name gets chanted when he's nowhere near the TV. Hell, his name got chanted when he was nowhere near wrestling for 9 years. And that continues to this day. He is an instant draw and one of the top baby faces in all of professional wrestling, let alone WWE. AEW is selling out buildings with CM Punk. So I got to give my hats off to CM Punk. He's that guy.
Yeah, I admittedly, now that you say that, I'm like, how did I not have Punk on my list?
Ooh.
But I didn't have Punk on my list.
Ooh.
I think for me, maybe it's like don't get me wrong, I think that's feud of the year. I think he played his role perfectly. I think McIntyre played his role perfectly. It's a feud that I will go back and watch in the future. Like, when I have some downtime, like, let me go back and watch CM Punk versus Drew. Let me watch the Hell in a Cell again. Let me watch the Four Corners match. I don't remember what they call it. Bull rope? Is that what they called it?
Strap match.
Strap match. Thank you. I said Four Corners. Yeah, like it's Arizona.
Connect Four.
Yeah. Anyway, side tangent. I just didn't put it on there because for me, like, he came back, he got hurt, and then he's only really had this one feud. So for me, it's kind of like I just need to see more to kind of solidify it. Now, don't get me wrong. That work that he did is like a 10 out of 10. It was fantastic stuff. He's already going away again.
Yeah.
Because he's
hurt. Old man, all right?
And I understand that.
Give him some time.
But for me, it's like, I need to see just the consistency.
They're still going to cheer for CM Punk.
Oh, they will.
Yeah.
That they will. So my number 3, I feel like we probably have the same 1, 2, 3, some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, this is the interesting part. I want to see how you rank these guys.
Number 3, I got the Yeet Man himself. I got Jey Uso. For me, I mean, it's not much more that needs to be said. He drowns out other superstars. Even at times when he didn't have the IC title, he was still the reason people were going. He was still the loudest pop of the night. I really kind of fought with myself like 1, 2, 3, where should I put Jey? And for me, it's maybe just like, it might just be strictly the name thing. You know what I mean? The other two I feel like are pretty easy guesses on who they are. But for me, it was like Jey Uso, he moved the needle for me. I mean, when he went out on his singles run, I was like, man, is he going to be able to do this? He far surpassed that, exceeded expectations 1,000%. So I have him at 3, but if you had him at 1 or 2, I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, works out pretty good. I yeeted him at 3.
Don't yeet him. That sounds bad.
Yeeted him into the third slot. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I have written down that if you take wrestling, like watching wrestling at face value into it, he's probably number 1. Like if you were to just like tell a kid right now, like who's the most over guy, who makes you excited when he comes out, who do you love? They're probably all gonna yell yeet and start yeeting on me like it's some Fortnite dance, right?
And merchandise.
Yeah, and merchandise. Like man's face value is probably number 1, but I do have him at number 3 for reasons that I'm gonna list later on with my top 2. But what this guy has done is just absolutely incredible. I'm completely with you. When he broke off and finally started going singles run, I was kind of like, oh man. I mean, the Roman Jey stuff was good, but when he broke off from the Bloodline and did his single stuff, I was really like, what are you gonna do now? And there was a time where he was lulling, and I was like, and we called him a Yeet Man. That's all he was. But within the past 2 or 3 months, he's really started to shine, made a name for himself away from the Bloodline, which is perfect for the Bloodline story. It just hats off to Jey. He's incredible.
Yeah, that uncertainty that you're talking about was when he went to Raw and everybody else was on SmackDown. And you're like, oh dear God, it's a sink or swim moment. And the flying colors. Number 2. I fought with this, and I fought with this.
Dude, I switched mine like 5 times.
And earlier, I admittedly did not pay attention to all of your honorable mentions because I was changing my list around. It was this right here.
Oh.
Number 2 for me, Cody Rhodes. Have him at number 2. If you have him at 1, I'm not going to argue. He is the Wwe Man, like the Yeet Man. He's the Wwe Man. He's when you're writing a wrestling story, right? You want a face that kisses babies and shakes hands and goes and does all the media stuff and the crowd interaction. Like Cody Rhodes is your perfect baby face in any way, shape, and form. To me, his title run has not been as good as when he was going to challenge, obviously, Roman. And I think anybody would kind of agree with that. It kind of happens when baby faces win titles. They aren't as exciting as when they're fighting for the title. For me, though, he just isn't as good as the number 1 guy with the babyface role that I have, and that's okay.
Who's your number 1?
It's Roman.
Okay,
it's got to be Roman.
So
Sami Zayn.
So when we're arguing over who is the best babyface, who's the number 1 babyface in the company, it does have to be between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. So I'm just gonna now we know that your number 2 is Cody, your number 1's Roman. Yeah. I'll give mine. My number 1 out of the 2 is Cody Rhodes. And the reason being, I have a couple.
Here we go.
The reason being is that Cody has done it the entire time being a face. And Roman Reigns, money talks. That Paul Heyman's talked about it. Triple H has talked about it. John Cena's talked about it on interviews. Roman Reigns has literally been the driving force for WWE stock being at the highest it's ever been. And you can look at those numbers. Numbers don't lie. You can just point to him and you say, that man did that. He's the face. He's number 1. But in my opinion, he did it all as a heel. This new face run is brand new. And Cody Rhodes, I think that his story combined, obviously combined with Roman's story, but that story of we want Cody and overthrowing Roman. That was such a big babyface moment. It was the biggest WrestleMania 41 gate of all time. And then the stats came out a couple weeks ago. Cody Rhodes is a top 5 Fanatics seller. That's on Fanatics.com. That's not going up against Jey Uso. That's not going up against Roman Reigns or John Cena. That's going up against LeBron James, Messi, Ronaldo. Like, top stars, athletes in the world, and Cody Rhodes broke into the top 5. That tells you that the world is behind Cody Rhodes, whether or not you like his title reign or not, whatever your opinion is. So I just have to give it to Cody Rhodes. He's just been a face longer. The numbers are there. It's like by that much, by that much a hair.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue with you there because the pushback would be like, well, you want to talk numbers? Well, let's talk about the ratings. And I mean, that's the other pushback.
Exactly.
And it really comes down to what do you like, or how do you classify heel or face? I'm sorry, I almost went on a different video, I guess. How do you classify a face? Like, what do you look for? Like you said, the Roman stuff is brand new for me. Like, I think about it and I get the feeling when Cody comes out. Don't get me wrong, I get excited. I am one of the bigger Cody Rhodes fans that I know. I always have been. I always will be.
You were a dashing Cody.
I was a dashing Cody. I was a Stardust fan. It's all there. There's just something to me about when Roman's music hits now and Roman walks out and you get the babyface pop. Like, there's nothing like it right now.
Well, I agree. If you're gonna ask me about like the aura of the two, like when one walks out, you know, my eye would go to Roman. Like when Cody and Roman make their entrances, or when that they're in the ring or they're around each other in the same arena, my eye will always go to Roman. But it's just, for me personally, it was the fact that Roman built this success off of his heel turn. Like that, he is now living off the fruits of the labor that his heel turn made for him. And so that's why I'm giving Cody the slight edge in the top face battle, because he's done it completely as a face since the second he came back against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 38. Yeah.
And I mean, you look at it and my mind might be more projection wise. Yeah. Like, I think with this Bloodline storyline, especially like as we head into Survivor Series and Rumble and Mania, like this Roman Reigns that we're going to get on this run is going to be fantastic. It's going to be what is it? This is October. So like a 6-month, 7-month run that we might not have seen before. Dude, like ever.
We do the same thing post WrestleMania 41, and it's probably going to be Roman. Probably going to be, probably Roman Jey, Jimmy,
Paul Heyman,
like, I mean, by then, who knows? But man, I'm just glad that our top 3 were the top 3, because I feel like those are just the right answers here.
Those are kind of non-negotiables. I feel like, like you said, you take it at face value, you just watch, and some people might not want to take it at face value. Some people might hate the yeets, but like you watch it, like Jey Uso comes out, and you're like, oh man, I gotta yeet. You know what I mean? So those top 3 are kind of non-negotiables for me. 4 through 5 and the honorable mentions have at it.
Yeah, it's like 4 through 8. You can really switch and swap them. But good stuff here. These are some good things.
You didn't have Sami Zayn on your list.
I did not have Sami Zayn on my list, and I don't regret it. It was supposed to be a non-biased list here, and he can get the haluva off my list. You see what I did there? Pretty good.
Pretty good. Bad.
Anyway, follow us on all of our socials at COD WrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. Listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, etc. If you want to come talk to us, we do have a Discord. It's in our link tree with the rest of our socials. So while you're there, follow all of our socials. We would greatly appreciate it. But as always, I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.